There's so many conditions that actually bring out the worst in us. And sometimes even when you hold your cool and it feels like everything is going on well, something will just trigger you the wrong way. And all of a sudden the toxicity comes out and everyone's like, we didn't know that this is how she reacts now. Sometimes the houses cover a lot, because when you stay within a house, I mean within your home, then everything is not spilled out there. But sometimes some of these things can't help but come out when we are out there. And all of a sudden, I've ever felt that, you know, you feel like slapping your child in front of everyone because of something they have done. And then you hold yourself. Yes, then you hold yourself. And the good thing about having knowledge is that it will rescue you at a point where you really need it most. Yeah, you see the things that we're talking about, our minds are registering. So there's a point where maybe someone will do, or a child will do something, and you'll be like, no, Joeria said this, no, Pamela said this, we had this discussion. So in that moment, that is exactly what I said to myself. I was like, I'll be humiliating. My child loves cake so much, so at school they had done a cake, like a welcome cake. And she was like really badly wanted the cake and couldn't wait. And I was like, no, because at home I can put it there and tell them, wait until we are ready to serve. And everyone will be like, they're salivating, but they are waiting because mommy said wait. So here they were, I think, because I was just driving into the school to pick them. And I saw them, I think she was like, mommy is not here. So I'm better off just falling into this cake. And then there I felt the anger. And then I was like, I'll be humiliating her in front of everyone else. So I held my hand. I just, you know, pulled her closer. And then when we got into the car, I still felt like I really wanted, you know, her to feel the wrath. But I was like, of what use will that be? Said, you know what, I will talk to her and I will make her promise that she will never do such a thing again. And I think for me, it was liberating to know that I can have choices and I can hold myself in that moment, and in that fleeting moment, in the fleeting emotions, I can be able to still breathe and make a right choice as a parent not to do the thing. So that's where you wanted to come in, that parents fall short in that area so many times. Whether they're with their children, where they're in public or alone with their children, they still fall short so many times.
Let me tell you what you will be doing to your child if at all you ever humiliate them in public. This 3-4-year-old, first of all, they don't forget and they understand everything.
Yeah.
So you go out to speak wrong to them, speak a lot, and then beat them up in front of every other child. That will be the breaking of their self-esteem, and they'll never have it again. They'll never have it like they had it again.
Because they're like, you've stripped me naked in front of everyone.
Yes.
Like I am nothing. You've humiliated me.
As far as we had our parents come to school assembly, you didn't perform well, you lie down for 10 in front of the assembly. Different kids.
I like that 10 bit.
Yes. But
I remember I had to run away for a whole week just to avoid those kibokos.
And do you know what really happened with those kids that were being beaten by their parents at the assembly? They didn't perform better either because they lost all the self-esteem.
That's true.
So as a parent, controlling your anger, controlling all your emotions, even if it's happiness, teaches you that you can actually do better for your child. The biggest part of toxicity that we currently have, the traits are in anger, the traits are in guilt. Parents can guilt trip their kids to control them or make them do what they want. But there are times that are going to happen and you don't have leverage over this child. What should you guilt trip them with?
No, that's how they totally stay away. When they get their sense of freedom, they've gone to campus, or even after they're done with campus, they're renting for themselves. They're like, you will never see me again. Like you have nothing on me. I'm off your leash. So I will not even pick your calls.
They will work their butts off to make sure they never go back to their mama.
That's exactly what they do.
I'll show up only when I will or I need help.
And on my terms.
And it is wrong. It starts way back when your child is still a kid, like too young. That is when we break it all. That's when we destroy it all. For a parent, I would say the best skill you can have to yourself is anger management.
Exactly.
Anger management.
Because it is through your too much anger that you'll create a negative environment to raise your child, and that will end up being toxic.
And it will be a vicious cycle.
Yes.
That child, that's how they are going to know how to parent.
Let me give you a very clear example. Why do you think our parents love our kids more?
Mm-hmm.
This is it. They raised us with a lot of anger in them. Mm-hmm. But now at their old age, they actually feel somewhere they lost all they had to do with us, and they can now do it with our
They can redeem it.
children.
So they pamper them.
Yeah. My friend always tells me our parents raised us with AK-47s.
And I know, and
but with our kids, they're using toy pistols.
They're too soft. Actually, it's toy pistols, water
Yes,
pistols.
yes. They're like, you.
They're playing games.
don't do that.
They carry them when they're not supposed to be carried. I actually sometimes don't want to take my children, especially to
Not
my
you
mother-in-law,
alone.
because then she will be on the back the whole day while she's doing even work. And I'm like, who does that?
Like, did you
Not
do
you
that to your
alone.
child?
I told my mom, I'm not giving you my kids until they're the age where I feel I have impacted very many values in them.
Yes.
And whatever you do will not change
You're
what
too
I've
honest
put.
with your mother.
I am too honest with my mother because I grew up as an introvert, and it really affected me as a child growing up. So when I grew up and actually realized that was just when I went to boarding school, I was like, okay, I'll talk. Because in that school, you could only survive if you could talk. So when I learned that I could talk, I still kept quiet until after my senior 6. You see the liberation you talk about when kids go out? That's the liberation I got.
You were set free.
So I felt I could tell my mother, but I was very sensitive that I do not speak to her.
Cross a certain line.
Yeah, in a manner that makes her feel angry or feel like she was not a good parent. I just opened
And
her
that takes
eyes.
a lot of control.
Yes, I just opened her eyes to the things that I think were not right. And what really amazed me is she accepted.
And do you see what you call being an introvert? Do you know there's so many people who think they're introverts, but because they've grown up under toxicity.
Right.
Yes.
And they were sanguines, they were happy people, they were, you know, they were bright and brilliant, but they carved in so that they can maintain the status quo, because that is how you are supposed to survive. So that was more like a safety mechanism for them.
Yes, because
And
humans
now,
act like
the
animals.
whole life, they've grown up thinking they're actually introverts.
Yes.
Why? Because they lack confidence, because their self-esteem was dented.
True.
And so, even at jobs, you will see them. You will recognize them. That they are not, because they usually have double personalities.
Right.
Yeah.
With
They're
one
actually
person,
called ambiverts. You can talk with the people you know well.
then when
you will be
don't talk.
around, dancing around.
That's me.
And then on the other side, with the people that know the introvert side of you, you
They'll
will
be like,
go back to
"What?"
being a typical introvert. And someone will see you from the other clique, they will look at you and they'll be like, what's wrong with this one? But when, for example, if you get a husband that is, most people didn't think I speak. When I'm with Tim, I'm a chatterbox. Like, he will literally tell me, shut up.
Right,
Like not in a wrong way, but you can speak. Yeah. But for the people that have seen me growing up, they know I do not speak. I am the quiet person. Sorry?
The feeling of
liberation. Because then you're with someone you love and you can be anything. You can say anything. And no fear of judgment, no fear of harassment, no fear of, you're thinking, I can be myself anytime.
Yes.
So you actually tend to be with this person a lot more and open up yourself, and this actually can be a healing relationship that can heal that child that that grew up with trauma, and sometimes the unknown trauma.
Actually, what I would say to parents, the environment you create at home for your children shapes their character. Who do you want your children to be? I'll use the example of my child. My child is a critical child, just like me when I was growing up. The difference is I was being shut down by my own parents because that's the way they know. They didn't have time, look for money and all that. But for my child, I will sit, he will talk, ask this, ask that, ask the other. Then I'll tell him, okay, now that one I don't know, let's wait for daddy. That one I don't know. I know Auntie Udaya knows, we shall ask her. So the next day
So you're like, let me save myself.
So the next day he'll be like, did you ask Auntie Udaya? I'm like,
and they don't forget.
yeah, I'm like, no, I didn't. Okay, you call her, I ask.
Are we breeding the same types of children in this era, in this generation? Because what you say is typically what is happening in my house. And because I thought, okay, she's too extroverted and too out there, and she loves people, and I'm not a people lover. I don't like visiting. I don't like engaging in conversations. And my husband told me, she is you. The only difference is you grew up in a different era. You're supposed to be exemplary, and so you were introvert. Exactly,
that is a bit of
parentification.
toxicity.
So actually it is, because
Yeah.
then you carry this
We're all
heavy
kids.
weight on your shoulder.
Right.
You
We're all
don't get to
children. The
enjoy.
difference is I are older.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're literally forced to be a parent. So I think just to enlighten on that, it's just the African culture, the setting in which you grow up. So growing up in an African
want to
home,
call it culture because
well,
it can be broken.
it can be broken, but here it is. I mean, we face it. Because you grow up in a family where it's African, and culture says you don't speak to your parents, or you don't speak amongst elders as a child. I'm a child activist, and I love children. I care. Everybody who knows me knows I'm about children. If it's a party, I would look out, have they eaten first before the adults? It's always me and children. So in the culture where you've grown up, people would always say, well, children will eat last. Or let them be in some corner, then they'll eat later when the adults have eaten. Things like they can't speak up their mind because they are children, right?
Ego.
So, but then there is a verse in the Bible, it's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. It says that parents, well, it's fathers, but in the context of parents, do not provoke your children. Instead, raise them with instruction towards the Lord. This is what is teaching me to talk to my child. Let them know you're doing wrong,
The instruction.
but can we now do it better?
Yeah.
I don't have to spank you for you. I spank my child to this day.
You guys are not provoked into sparking.
No, I do spank. I do spank her. However,
Jory, are you a child psychologist?
Me, I'm not a child psychologist, but
You seem to know a lot. That seems to be your passion.
With my children, I have given my whole self
yeah,
To learn.
to learn,
Wow.
and
A
learn
job.
and
That's
raise
beautiful.
my children.
Right.
Yeah, in my house we have a corner of our big goal there, like my baby calls it. But
Big
it-
goal.
Yeah, it rarely comes out. But when it comes out, they know mommy is angry. And he first says, mommy, I'll not repeat it again.
Lie down.
I explain to him, see, I have to punish you because you've done it 3 times. How do I know you not do it the first time, even when you promise and you promised the other time? So for every wrongdoing,
In that tone?
Yes. Me and my child
I
sit.
admire you.
We sit.
I need that self-control.
We sit. The self-control can only be gained when you don't
You
beat
practice
while
you
you're
it.
teach,
angry.
Yeah.
you teach it to yourself.
First, let your
I know.
anger go down. Let your anger go down, then speak to your child. We speak. I explain to him. And for my child, so much, I raise my child speaking Luganda. So when we are speaking about something
Not
serious,
English.
No,
Their first language is Luganda.
mother tongue.
How did you?
We speak Luganda at home.
Yeah.
I'm not about the hype, by the way.
For me, it's not the hype.
I want
but
to be so original and so
I
organic.
have nannies that are from Arua. They can't speak any other language
Yeah.
apart from English.
Right.
So, and my mother told me, oluzungu telugunjula. I'm like, what do you mean? And oluzungu telugunjula. So
No,
when
I just say Bawano and then
I know.
in English, like, get away from here.
it sounds like
yeah,
easy,
like easy and cool.
but Sidika, it sounds like
So the teaching of the English is for the teacher, and that's what she gets paid to do, and other things. So for the mother tongue, like it's called, that's my role, and I make sure I do it. So I sit with my child down somewhere. You know, I learned something. When you want to speak to your child, be with them at the same level. Do not show that you
Tower
are.
over them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
They actually will not take in. Like any other animal, they will be against what you're telling them. So we sit down. I explain to him in English properly. Then I repeat it in Luganda. I said, Mommy, I've understood. When my mommy speaks to me, I listen.
that's what she said.
He says, so we go. The moment he does something away from what we spoke about, I remind him once, twice, 3 times, and then the other thing comes out.
So would you admit that it's a constant fight of maintaining the balance?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a constant.
Yes.
You have to remind
no
yourself.
one got it right.
Yeah.
There is no script to
Consistent.
parenting.
Yeah,
That's
with
why.
parenting, there's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, because
You learn on job.
kids are different.
Right.
Yeah.
Kids are different.
Yeah.
You learn on job and you don't retire.
Yes.
Wow,
So
that's
you
beautiful.
you keep learning your child. You keep learning who they are. You put a lot of effort. The problem that we have currently as parents, we are not doing enough to learn who our kids are. You know, teachers know our kids better than we do.
Right.
They do.
My kid's teacher was telling me the other day they were assessed, and my child is the best writer in their class. I told her, okay, but we've been writing for a while. I think that one I know. It doesn't excite me, but it's good. And you'll find a parent who doesn't even know it's hard for kids to start writing because their muscles are weak.
Yeah, and they have to pick,
So
rise,
it
they
takes
have
time.
to button up shirts.
Yeah.
So this teacher keeps telling me, among the parents that we have, there is something different about you. You know everything about your child.
You are careful.
Because I have
You
put
pay
in
you're
effort.
intentional.
I'll not say
You
I'm
are a
there.
present parent.
There is no one size fits all. We try to do this, to learn that. And even with other people's children, if I happen to meet them, I don't look at what other people look at when they meet kids. When I meet kids, I like to learn about their emotions.